Hey guys, it's Hermit. Changli is finally out now, so here's everything you need to know to get started with Changli, including a breakdown of her abilities, weapons, echoes, teams, and more. To get started, we'll take a look at Changli's kit to understand how she works. Let's start with Changli's resonance skill, as I think it's the best place to start with explaining her abilities. Her skill dashes her forward and does a plunging attack dealing fusion damage. It can be cast in the air as well. This can hold up to 2 charges and she recovers 1 charge every 12 seconds. She also gains True Sight after using her ability. Now what is True Sight? You can tell she's in True Sight because her hair starts glowing like this, and True Sight empowers her next basic attack, jump, or mid-air attack. If she uses a basic attack on the ground, she casts True Sight Conquest, dashing towards the enemy and dealing fusion damage considered as resonance skill damage and ending True Sight. If she does a jump or mid-air attack during True Sight, she uses True Sight Charge, transforming into this phoenix and dashing towards the enemy, dealing fusion damage considered as resonance skill damage and ending True Sight. Now for Changli's basic attacks. She does up to 4 consecutive attacks dealing fusion damage, and when she does her basic attack 4, she enters True Sight for 12 seconds. She also has a mid-air attack which consumes stamina and allows her to perform up to 4 consecutive attacks mid-air, and after doing her mid-air attack 4, she enters True Sight for 12 seconds. Her heavy attack lunges her forward with a rising upward strike dealing damage. Using basic attack within a certain time frame after the lunge will allow her to use mid-air attack 3, meaning she can skip the first 2 mid-air attacks, letting her gain True Sight quicker. Her heavy attack in mid-air allows her to perform a plunging attack. She can also use this after True Sight Charge. Upon reaching the ground, she can perform a basic attack within a certain time frame to use basic attack 3, allowing her to gain True Sight quicker, similar to heavy attack from before, but this time on the ground. And her dodge counter just deals fusion damage after successfully dodging. Her intro skill attacks the target and puts her into True Sight for 12 seconds. Her outro skill buffs the next character to take the field with 20% fusion damage and 25% resonance liberation damage for 10 seconds or until the character leaves the field. Changli's Forte Circuit allows her to hold up to 4 stacks of enflamement. She can gain 1 stack whenever she uses a True Sight attack, and gain 4 stacks whenever she uses her Resonance Liberation. Her appearance also changes depending on the number of stacks she has. Here's her at 0 to 1 stacks. Then at 2 stacks her clothes start burning. At 3 stacks the black part of her clothes is gone completely, and at 4 stacks she has a blindfold on. When Changli has all 4 stacks, she can use heavy attack to consume all the stacks and cast Flaming Sacrifice, dealing fusion damage counter as resonance skill damage. She also takes 40% less damage while casting Flaming Sacrifice. Her Resonance Liberation deals fusion damage to nearby enemies, and she gains 4 stacks of enflamement. She also gains Fury Feather. This can be cast mid-air. When Changli uses her Forte Circuit, Flaming Sacrifice, within 10 seconds of entering Fury Feather, her attack is increased by 25% and Fury Feather ends. Next, her inherent skill Secret Strategist. When Changli uses any True Sight attack, for each stack of enflamement, her fusion damage is increased by 5%. And for her inherent skill Sweeping Force, when Changli uses her Forte Circuit or Resonance Liberation, her fusion damage is increased by 20% and ignores 15% of the target's defense when dealing damage. And her minor nodes give her 8% crit rate and 12% attack in total. As for her skill priority, I recommend her Forte Circuit first, followed by her Resonance Liberation, then her Resonance skill, and leave the basic attacks and intro skill for last. By the way, if you guys like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to like the video and subscribe. It really helps. Thanks for the support, and let's get back to the video. Moving on to Changli Sequences. Are they worth it? Here are all of Changli's sequences on the screen, and in my opinion, the most notable ones are her sequence 2, 4, and 6. Her sequence 2 increases her crit rate by 25% for 8 seconds whenever she gets a stack of enflamement, which is pretty much going to always be active, making it fairly easy to get good crit ratios on her. And her sequence 4 further boosts her supporting capabilities by increasing the entire team's attack by 20% for 30 seconds when casting her intro skill. I feel like this is going to be a really insane sequence if you're running Changli in a duo DPS setup like with Chisha or Encore. And lastly, her sequence 6 allows Changli to basically ignore 40% of the target's defense when dealing damage, which is crazy. We don't really have anything like this in the game so far. This will allow her to shred enemies by ignoring their defense. Now, I don't think sequences are necessary for Changli, but they're powerful and you can't go wrong if you decide to get them. Now for weapons, her best in slot is gonna be her signature Blazing Brilliance. It gives a lot of crit damage from its substat, and its passive grants her attack percent and skill damage bonus, making it perfect for Changli. The standard 5-star weapon Emerald Genesis is also a good option as it provides crit rate from its substat while also providing energy regen and stacking attack percent from its substat. If you don't have the 5-star weapons, you can use the Battle Pass weapon Lumen Gloss or other 4-star options like the Commando of Conviction and Lunar Cutter. If you're unfortunate enough to have none of the options above, you can use the 3-star Sword of Night to get you started. For Echoes, Changli wants the 5-set Molten Rift, which increases fusion damage by 10% and additionally increases fusion damage by 30% for 15 seconds after using a resonance skill at 5 pieces. For Echo cost, you want to go 4, 3, 3, 1, 1. For the main Echo, which is also going to be your 4 cost, you want the Infernal Rider with a crit rate or crit damage main stat depending on what you need. It allows you to transform into Infernal Rider, dealing up to 3 consecutive strikes, and after the 3rd hit, it grants you a 12% fusion damage and basic attack damage buff for 15 seconds. For 3 costs, you want 2 fusion damage main stats, and the 1 cost, you want 2 attack percent main stats. For substats, you want to aim for crit rate and crit damage first, followed by energy regen until you have around 120%, then attack percent, and lastly, resonant skill damage and flat attack. And if you want to try a more supportive build, you can try the 5-piece Moonlit Cloud set running Impermanence Heron with the same main and substats. Alright, let's jump in and explore the top teammates for Changli. If Changli's in the first slot of your team, let's first talk about who you can slot in for the second slot. This will consist of main DPSs you can pair with your Changli or sub DPSs if you plan to run more of a main DPS Changli. Later, we'll discuss the third slot, which typically includes supports providing healing, shielding, buffing, and more. Starting with the first option, we have Encore. Encore is a standard 5-star character which you can get at any time, and her consistent and powerful damage output makes her a great main DPS. The reason she works well with Changli is because she does loads of fusion damage, allowing her to take advantage of the fusion damage bonus that Changli provides from her outro skill. I think they will be a deadly combo when paired together, as they can be played in a quick swap playstyle to do massive amounts of damage to enemies. The next potential main DPS that you can pair with Changli is Chisha. Chisha is a free 4-star character that you start the game with, meaning that everyone has access to her. The reason why Chisha is amazing with Changli is because she can make full use of Changli's outro buff of fusion damage and resonance liberation damage, while Encore can only make use of the fusion damage buff as she doesn't really have much liberation damage in her kit. For any Chisha mains, Changli will definitely be a huge improvement to her current teams and will probably be her best teammate. Next, we have some sub DPS options if you want to run your Changli in more of a main DPS role. First, of course, we have Yinlin. Yinlin is just a great sub DPS for any unit right now, as she deals lots of damage on field with her quick rotations while also providing huge off-field damage through her coordinated attacks. She also provides a resonance liberation damage buff, which Changli can make use of, but you're mainly using Yinlin for her insane damage on and off field, making her a pretty good option as a sub DPS for Changli. Next, we have Mortify, who is actually a rate up 4-star on Changli's banner, so if you happen to pull a few copies of him, he can be pretty useful. His S6 provides a 20% attack boost for the whole team, which is a pretty big boost for your team. He provides a coordinated attack through his Resonance Liberation to provide extra damage for Changli on field. His outro skill does also buff heavy attack, but it's not really that useful for Changli, so it's negligible. Mortify would also be running the Moonlit Cloud set, providing an additional 22.5% attack boost for the next Resonator. Combine that with the Static Mist if you have it, which at rank 1 increases the next Resonator's attack by 10%. Combining that with his S6, you could get a total of 52.5% attack increase with Mortify for your Changli. Next, Sanhua can be used as a sub DPS for Changli as well. She has her quick rotation that hardly takes up any field time, dealing a quick burst of damage, and her outro skill applying a basic attack damage deepen for the next ally, which isn't that impactful for Changli as most of her damage comes from her resident skill damage, but it's still usable as she does have some basic attacks in her rotation. Sanhua can also equip the Moonlit Cloud set like Mortify, further boosting the next Resonator's attack. Overall, I think Sanhua is a decent option for Changli as she's usable, but there are better options. Now I debated whether I should put Tao Chi in the second or third slot, but I think the second slot makes more sense for her. This is because while Tao Chi does provide shields, she also has a resin skill damage deepen on her outro skill, making her a great supportive buffer for Changli, as most of Changli's damage is from resin skill damage. This makes Tao Chi feel more like a sub DPS akin to Sanhua than someone like Verena. Speaking about Verena, let's move on to the third slot, which will be mainly supportive units who provide healing, shielding, and buffs. First, of course, we have Verena, who's just the best healing and buffing support we have right now. She provides coordinated attacks with her Resonance Liberation, her outro skill buffs all team members' damage by 15%, and her passive skill Gift of Nature can boost all team members' attack by 20%. Additionally, putting Verena on the Rejuvenating Glow set will increase all allies' attack by 15%. So you can see how good Verena is, not only just for healing, but for providing the entire team with a massive amount of buffs. Next, we have Baiji, who similar to Verena provides the entire team with heals and buffs. Her Liberation does constant damage to enemies and heals allies even when she's off field. Her passive skill increases attack by 15%, however Baiji's outro skill only buffs the attack of the next Resonator and not the team, so that's something to look out for when playing her. And she can also make use of the Rejuvenating Glow set to give team-wide buffs similar to Verena. For the last unit who could fit in the third slot, we have Jian Xin. She provides some great shielding, healing, and buffing, as well as great grouping with her Resonance Liberation. She can be particularly useful against enemies who like to scatter around a lot and you need some grouping, like some Tower of Adversity stages. And now that we've went over Changli's teammates, here are some example teams you can run. Let's say you just started playing when Changli's banner released and you managed to get her but you don't really have any other characters. You can run this free-to-play team consisting of Changli, Chisha, and Baiji. This is a great team to get you started as it has Chisha who can make full use of Changli's outro skill buffs and Baiji who would provide buffs for the team. This team could easily get you through most content in the game, at least until you get more characters to diversify your roster. The next team we have is a quick swap team with Changli, Encore, and Verena. Like I mentioned before, they synergize really well as Changli and Encore can swap in and out frequently to cancel animations while dealing loads of damage, and Verena is there to provide healing and buffs for the entire team. Next, we have a Changli hypercarry team with Changli in the first slot, Yinlin in the second, and you can feel free to use Mortefi, Sanhua, or Tao Chi here if you don't have Yinlin, but I think Yinlin is the best option we have right now. And for the last slot, we have Verena. This team gives Changli the tools she needs to thrive as a main DPS as she gets loads of off-field support and buffs. And lastly, I have what I call the Changli AoE team, consisting of Changli, Yinlin, and Jian Xin. This team works by grouping the enemies with Jian Xin, then applying marks with Yinlin to provide coordinated attacks for Changli to finish them off. This team excels at cleaning out many mobs at the same time, or mobs that are spread out and you want to group them to efficiently wipe them out, like in some tower stages. And those are just some of the teams I have made, but I'm pretty sure there are many more teams that Changli can work in. And that's it. Hopefully this guide helped you understand and get started with your Changli builds. If you found this guide helpful and you want to see more like it, consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps me out and it lets me bring you guys more videos like this. And also let me know in the comments down below if you guys are enjoying Changli so far. That's it for me and I'll see you guys next time.